Ghosting, the disappearance that feels personal. Have you ever connected with someone in a way that felt unexpectedly real, where the exchange of words, attention, and emotional presence carried a level of sincerity that you don't often encounter in everyday interactions? Not just conversation for the sake of filling space, but something that felt intentional, attentive, curious, and aware. Someone who looked at you, not just as a person standing in front of them, but as a mind, a history, a pulse, a presence. Someone who listened in a way that made you feel recognized, maybe even understood, in a way that felt rare. And then, just as naturally as the connection formed, without any warning or gradual withdrawal, they vanished. No explanation, no final conversation, no goodbye. Just silence, sudden, sharp, and absolute. A silence that feels heavy not because of what was said, but because of what was never said. You are left holding the weight of something unfinished, something that once felt open and mutual, and now exists only in the echo of your memory. This is ghosting, and the impact is far deeper than simply being ignored or dismissed. Ghosting is not just the absence of response, it is the removal of emotional presence without resolution. And the human mind is not built to understand emotional disappearance without meaning. When something ends without explanation, the event doesn't conclude in the external world. It continues internally, where the story had already begun to form. Your mind attempts to unravel the silence, to make sense of what does not make sense, to locate a missing piece that may not exist at all. So, you begin to retrace. You go back through conversations. You examine tone, timing, your own vulnerability. You scan for subtlety, hidden signals, invisible shifts. You search for a moment where the connection began to fracture. And when you find none, when there is no reason, no rupture, no conflict, your mind takes the confusion and turns it inward. What was once curiosity becomes self-interrogation. What was once emotional openness becomes doubt. And what was once connection becomes blame. Ghosting doesn't create pain simply because someone left. It creates pain because the story was never allowed to end. The human brain needs narrative completion to process emotional experience. Without it, the emotional energy has nowhere to go. It lingers, unsettled, unresolved, looping in the background of your awareness like a question that cannot be answered. And in that unresolved space, the mind begins to fracture itself trying to solve a puzzle that was never yours to solve. The questions begin quietly and logically. Did I misread the situation? Did I say something wrong? Was I too emotional? Was I not enough? But those questions carry an implied accusation against yourself. This is where ghosting becomes psychological injury. Not because you were rejected, but because the absence of explanation makes your identity the thing that gets questioned. Ghosting is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of the other person's emotional capacity. People who ghost often desire connection, affection, attraction, intimacy, and attention, but they do not possess the internal stability required to remain present when the connection deepens. They want the experience of closeness, but not the responsibility that comes with it. They can engage in emotional warmth, but cannot tolerate emotional accountability. When the moment arrives that requires presence, clarity, or vulnerability, they withdraw. Not because the connection was wrong, but because they are not equipped to maintain it. Ghosting is not the absence of feelings. It is the avoidance of them. But the one who is ghosted does not experience avoidance. They experience abandonment without explanation, which is one of the most powerful triggers for psychological distress that a human being can experience. Your nervous system reacts as though you have been suddenly dropped, because in a very real, biological sense, you have. Emotional attachment involves the release of neurochemicals that anticipate continuity and connection. When the connection is severed without closure, the body experiences shock. This is why ghosting can feel disproportionately painful, even if the relationship was brief. The pain is not measured in time. It is measured in emotional access. And if you have ever lived through emotional inconsistency, instability, neglect, or abandonment in your past, ghosting does not just hurt, it reawakens something older, something you thought you had moved past, something you hoped you had outgrown. You are not just reacting to the person who left. You are reacting to the familiar echo of what leaving once meant. But closure does not come from the one who left. Closure is the moment you understand that the explanation you are searching for does not exist in the story you are replaying. You are not missing information. You are not missing context. You are not missing a moment that could have changed the outcome. The only thing missing is their capacity to communicate honestly. Someone who can disappear was never someone who knew how to stay. Someone who avoids discomfort was never prepared for intimacy. Someone who cannot confront themselves cannot confront you. Their silence is not about your value. It is about their limit. And someone who cannot stay should not be granted the power to define how you see yourself. So now I ask you, have you ever been left without explanation? Not because you lacked value, but because they lacked courage? If the answer is yes, speak it in the comments. Your voice may be the mirror someone else needs to recognize that their pain is not a failure, it is a memory trying to understand itself. Share this video with someone who feels stuck in unanswered questions. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next step of this emotional awareness journey here in Obscure Mindscapes, where we turn emotional darkness into understanding and pain into knowledge. And if you're ready to understand this pattern on a deeper psychological level, go to the description and get the book. It's time to protect your mind the way your heart deserved to be protected.